All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and if you're here, it's because you're ready to reduce stress, burn stubborn fat, and get your body working with you instead of against you. On this podcast, we're all about simple, no BS strategies for fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle. This way, you can feel strong, confident, and in control. I'll give you the tools, mindset shifts, and habits to help you look and feel your best without spending hours in the gym or stressing over every single meal. Now, let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back. And I'm your host, Sean Calhoun. And today I'm going to talk about something that has been quite bothering me, frankly, about today's day and age and the health, system and health world in general. Like, did you ever feel yourself listening to a podcast like this or scrolling on social media and then find yourself even more confused about your health and frustrated? Well, if that's the case, today I'm going to talk to you about why that might be and hopefully bring some clarity and just let us be at ease a little bit about the health advice that is out there. Now, before we get into this, I'm not going to sit here and try to throw stats down your throat and tell you that my way is right and other people's way is wrong. No, today I'm going to speak from a neutral field and just speak from how I was thinking about the health industry in general and hopefully give us some clarity on feeling like we are not broken and we're not crazy. So hear me out, right? You are scrolling on social media and you see one person that makes a post about how amazing the carnivore diet is, and you see a picture of them and they lost all this weight and they're talking about how they have such great energy and maybe it worked for a few of their clients, right? And you're like, awesome. I got some bullet points from this. Tomorrow, I'm going to get all set up so that I can try this carnivore diet out because it seemed that it was amazing for them. And then you're scrolling, scrolling, and you see someone who says, my gosh, low carb, like that was the best for me. And then you keep scrolling and you see someone who's like, I've been a vegan for 10 years and I haven't gotten sick in 10 years. And then you're scrolling and you're like, intermittent fasting, that is the way to feel your best, and this is the science behind it, and all of these amazing things. And you're just like, oh my God, I am going to explode with all of this fitness information, all of these habits, all of these tactics, these diets, these workout plans. And what we want to talk about today is that they might all be right for them, but they might not be right for you, and that is okay. Right? We need to learn how to be in tune with our own body and learn to see what works for us rather than just trying to do everything out there that seems to work amazing for these other people, but yet you try it and it doesn't work, and then you just feel defeated, you feel frustrated, you feel broken, and you feel like maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I'm not meant to lose this weight. Maybe I'm not meant to have energy and I am just getting older, or this is just how life is when you have kids, or whatever the story is that you say inside your head doesn't necessarily have to be true, but you keep proving yourself right, so to speak, with these negative thoughts that are going on in your head because of this approach, right? So let's bring some clarity to the whole situation, right? So I hear you, and I just want to let you know that you are not broken. You're just overloaded with information. So the goal of this episode is just to reframe how you approach your health by focusing on personalization and not perfection, right? You can try to find the steps of, someone's keto diet that they followed and do it to perfection, but if it's not for you, then it's not going to work, right? And we have to be okay with that. So the first thing that I want to get into is why it feels so overwhelming. Right? Why does this noise and why does all of this information feel overwhelming? Well, that is because everyone is a quote-unquote expert. Now, I come from the place of I have experienced a lot, dealt with a lot of clients, and learned a lot. But the more I learn and the more clients that I work with, I also understand there is so much that I do not know. And I think that's a very humbling experience when you get folks who maybe did one thing and it worked, and then they are preaching that it's that way and you need to do it that way. Well, I'm not saying I'm right either, but I'm just saying it seems as though the more I've learned, the more I realize there's so much that I don't know. And I don't want to stick my pole in the sand and say this is how it is. Because in a year, 5, 10 years from now, I will probably be looking back and saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was giving that advice out. I'm simply saying that when I talk about habits and tactics and things, I'm speaking from what I know at this moment, but also understanding that there's so much more to know. So just understand that when you're scrolling, everyone is an expert, but no two bodies are the same. So I could have a twin brother, I could have my partner who I live with, I could have, doesn't matter. If I eat and drink and do the same workout plan as this person, I may not get results where they do. Right? There's another phrase that is pretty great, is that one man's food is another man's poison. Meaning you and another person could both be eating organic, good whole foods, but to one person it corresponds with their biology and their health, and gives them a great reaction of high energy, a healthy weight, good stable vitality. And the other person, it can make them tired, lethargic, sick, bloated, right? Like, so we have to understand that no two bodies are the same. And then also understand that these influencers and these people you might follow are speaking about what worked for them, not necessarily you. Now, here's the caveat. What I do like about the health realm, and I'm not here to bash them all day, but something that I do like is nowadays we're getting into a situation where people are able to niche down and find a group of not just like-minded, but like biology people, and then have a group of testimonials and things that work for them in general. So for example, I work with perimenopausal and menopausal women. Now again, no two of those women are the same, but if overarchingly there's a problem of diminishing estrogen levels and low libido and different things like that, and we can figure out some of the foundational steps to take to not to cure, to help those things, well then guess what? That's going to help you. So that is one thing that I do like about the health, influencer and expert world, is that we're able to niche down and help people in a group environment where some things are able to help where you're at rather than being totally personalized. So, but just realize most of these people are just speaking about what has worked for them, and it's not necessarily you. Now, the point of that is that if someone has the analogy that I like to use is in the job world. That would be like if I were a successful accountant and I went on Instagram and started making posts telling you this is how to become a successful accountant. You need to be an accountant. If you want to be successful and you want to make money, here's how to become an accountant. Right? I know that sounds crazy and it's not directly correlated to health, but think about it, right? Not everyone wants to be an accountant, and not everyone likes that, and not everyone understands it. So for the folks who they really love math and numbers and the accounting world, well then guess what? When you are making posts about how to improve that and someone's an aspiring accountant, they can take that, they can apply those principles and those methods, and yeah, they can learn from you and become a successful accountant. But if you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a school teacher, or you want to be something else with your life, and you're hearing these people talk about how to be accountants, you're just going to feel frustrated, right? It's the same thing with your health. Whereas if you know your body feels great when you have meat and you have energy and you enjoy it, that's another thing. Crazy concept in life is enjoying some part of it. And you're hearing people talk about vegetarian, veganism, and all of those things. And you're like, yeah, it seems to work for them. Let me try it. And you absolutely hate every second of it, and it's not working for you. Don't feel broken. It just wasn't for you, right? So we have to understand that. And I hope that that analogy hit home, because when I was thinking about health trends, that's what I thought of. Is like, what about the workforce? Not everyone does the same job. So why would it be? And there's people successful in every job. There's successful teachers. There's successful entrepreneurs. There's successful insurance salesmen, right? It doesn't matter what realm you're in. There's people that are successful in that. It's all about their mindset towards what they do. So they found something that they enjoy, or at least makes sense to them. They found the winning recipe, and they had the mindset that they can do it, and they were successful. So if we apply that to our health building habits, we need to find what works for us, what type of exercise, which foods agree with our body, and then have the mindset that they can do it, and then work at it and take time and make adjustments. And over time, you become very healthy and feel good. Enough with the work analogy. But the problem I see is that we get a ton of rapid fire trends, miracle supplements, and extreme diets, and that leads you to decision fatigue. And this is what sparked this entire conversation, is that I see people who will either come into the studio or I just see online where they're like, all right, I'm really excited to try this one thing. And they'll get advice from somebody and then they try it for a day or a week. And then they get advice from someone else and then they totally change their approach. And then they try that for a couple days or a couple weeks. And then they hear advice from someone else and they get excited. And then they try that for a couple days and a couple weeks. And then that leads you you don't know what to do, you feel broken, and you never make any progress. So that pressure of all of those supplements, extreme diets, and these trends, they lead you to start these random habits without any type of strategy. They have you buying supplements from people online that are unregulated and probably aren't even the amount of ingredient that you need. Like it could be a melatonin supplement that isn't really fully melatonin, right? You're buying these unregulated products that aren't professional grade. They just have a good label on the front and they make some claim to help you sleep better, burn fat, or whatever it is. And you're not deficient in that supplement because you don't even know. You just saw, hey, this melatonin helps people sleep, or ashwagandha, helps with cortisol regulation. And they do to an extent, but it's like, do we know if we need those things? Or are we just buying them because we saw someone on Instagram? A lot of times that's what happens. And then we have a supplement graveyard in our kitchen, in our pantry, right? We're just full of stuff that we took two of, it didn't work, and you're like, why do I even have this stuff anymore? I'm sure you have your supplement graveyard as well. So, and then again, like I said, it has you constantly switching your approaches, which we know consistency trumps all. And then you're constantly feeling stuck, frustrated, and thinking, nothing works for me. Well, we're here to talk about that because you're not broken and we just need to figure that out, right? So the second thing is that the problem with these one-size-fits-all wellness things is that you're copying someone else's meal plan, someone else's supplement stack, and someone else's morning routine. And that backfires on you, right? It backfires on you because of the things that I said. Maybe you're not deficient in those supplements and that is causing an adverse reaction to you. Or maybe someone's meal plan that worked for them is something that you're sensitive to, or something that doesn't regulate your body's energy properly. You see, when we eat food, what food does for us is obviously gives us nutrients that our body needs to thrive. It also balances our energy systems. So your autonomic nervous system is, it's got to be in balance. So think of a seesaw, right? Well, then we need to eat foods that's going to balance that out and give us stable energy. So I'll use myself for an example. I'm what's called a fast oxidizer, which means I burn through food and fuel fairly quick, right? So think about my metabolism as like a bonfire, right? And if you put a piece of paper in that bonfire, what happens? It burns up very quickly. Well, that's what happens when I eat carbs. So carbs are very fast burning fuels, right? Your body uses them quickly for quick energy. So if I eat like oatmeal and any type of starchy carbs like that all the time, my body burns them up and it leaves me feeling lethargic, tired, low energy. It's not because I'm not eating calories. It's because it's the inappropriate calories to balance out my nervous system. So I need to put a big log on that bonfire to sustain the fire all night, so to speak, right? We're using analogies. So for that would be like meats, like red meat, steak, venison, liver, right? Not that I eat liver, but like those higher purine meat. Hey, hope you're loving the episode so far. Thanks for spending some time with me. I got a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because that's how I know you're getting value from the show. And this way, you never miss an episode. All right, now back to the show. Purine is the density of protein in the meat. So like eggs have a lower purine, whereas like bison has a higher purine. So I need to eat the stuff with higher purine proteins in them to sustain my energy. So if I eat that a little bit afterwards, I'm going to feel good and have energy and feel like I'm full and satiated. Whereas if I eat the carbs, I'm not going to feel that way. So that's why I talk to people a lot about how do you feel about an hour or two after you eat, and that starts to give you direction and answers to what your body needs, right? Like that's why I truly believe that calories in versus calories out doesn't even close to paint the picture of what's going on with your health. Because if I, for example, were to eat, 1,000 calories of carbs all day long, I'm going to eat that amount of carbs, but I'm going to feel like crap, right? I'm going to be useless to the world, wanting to fall asleep at the wheel, right? Whereas if I eat 2,000 carbs of vegetables and meat and some fats, right? I need a lot of fat in my diet. Well, then I'm going to feel a lot better. Same amount of calories, but the food did something way different for me. So I could make a whole episode about this, and I probably will, because this is called your metabolic typing diet. And I feel like we don't talk about this a lot, but I'm not here to preach a method right now. I'm here to tell you that you're just not crazy. So just understand that one person's food might not work for you, because your autonomic type and your metabolic type may be different, and that's okay, right? And then we have to realize that real wellness isn't trying to piece together these random tips. It's about understanding your body, your needs, and your starting point. So everyone's at a different chapter in their life. Maybe you're following someone who's been on their health journey for 10 years and they've really been working at it and establishing habits that work for them. And then you're trying to pick up where they're at. It just doesn't work that way. So you need to figure out what works for your body, what your body's needs are, and your starting point. So maybe you've never exercised before, and just going for a walk outside is something that will get you moving and get you on a habit of being active. And then you're looking at someone on Instagram who's, a pro CrossFitter, and you're like, wow, okay, what do they do? Let me try CrossFit out. And it just doesn't work for you. So this is all about personalization, and more than personalization is embodying and understanding who you are as a person. I don't care what doctor you go to, what professional you listen to, you know yourself more than anyone else. And as soon as we can get rid of the noise and get in tune with how our body feels and our intuition and all of that stuff, you will be able to start making steps in the right direction. And it's all about listening for those cues. Like I said, when you eat, if you just silence the noise and say, man, I really had good energy after I had that lunch. What did I eat? What time did I eat? What environment was I in, right? Was I sitting down? Was I calmly chewing, or was I eating in the car, right? You need to start to quiet the noise and listen to your body and your subconscious and understand what your body needs. This way, we no longer have to try a fad. We just kind of know intuitively, this is the way I need to go. And then listen to your body and make adjustments based on that. So the third part that I want to talk about is some action steps, right? Because I am all about action. If I give you guys information and leave you with nothing to do, well, then guess what? It just goes in one ear and out the other, and we make no progress towards feeling better, which is the whole goal of this show, is so that we can burn fat, we can boost our energy, and we can live a life worth living, right? So we can get off of Instagram and get off of these podcasts and stop listening all day and start living, right? I heard a quote the other day that really hit me, and they were talking about prolonging life and people living longer. And the guy said, I don't think people are living longer. I think they're dying longer. And I was like, whoa, that kind of hit me, because if you're sick and you're suffering, right? You might be able to prolong how many years you're breathing and your heart's beating, but are you actually living? So my goal is that to you that is listening to this, we can live longer, not die longer, right? So here's some of the steps. I say simplicity wins every time. If you're doing some complex thing, it's usually so overwhelming that we won't stick with it anyway. So I always tell people, start with the basics first. You need to set a solid foundation, and then you can build upon that. Now, the basics that I'm talking about are so fundamental that they do really work across the board, unless it's some random cases. So hydration. Everyone needs to be hydrated, right? We've talked about this before on the show. Your body is mostly water. We need to hydrate, and specifically with some minerals. Now, again, we won't go into the details because we've had episodes about this, but rule of thumb I like to say is if you take your body weight and drink half of it in ounces of water, you're on a good path, right? Working towards that. Then we have whole food nutrition. Keep it simple, right? The less ingredients, the better. If you grab a stalk of broccoli, and that's broccoli, and then you grab a box of something with all these gums and different ingredients just to make a little cracker, what do you think is going to treat your body better? The broccoli, right? So let's start there. And again, I know there's food sensitivities, and someone could be eating a healthy food like broccoli, and it could be upsetting their stomach. But what I'm talking about is getting to a baseline and understanding your body first. So it's a lot easier to rule out broccoli than it is to rule out something like a polysorbate 80, which is an emulsifier in things like ice cream and condiments, right? So what I'm saying is, if you know broccoli is bothering you and you got tested for that, you can remove the broccoli. But those other things are hidden in all those processed foods, and it's a lot harder to realize that. So what I'm saying, start with whole foods. Then movement you enjoy, right? I think this one goes overlooked too. I don't want to say a lot of us put exercise in a box where it's got to be 1 hour long. It's got to be in the form of weightlifting or a class or instructor led. And by all means, we do classes that are instructor led, and I think they're amazing. But guess what? It's not for everyone on earth. If you enjoy hiking, if you enjoy pickleball, if you enjoy walking with a friend, if you enjoy doing push-ups in your living room, well then guess what? That's exercise, right? So we need to figure out what we enjoy, because if you're doing something that is awful and you know that it's good for you, quote unquote, but you dread it every single time, odds are we're not going to stick with that for very long. So we want you to be consistent and live a life worth living. So if you're like, hey, I just really love, going for walks. I just really love this DVD workout plan or this YouTube workout plan that I do in my living room, and that makes you happy, then do that, right? But just find something you love. Then there's quality sleep. Quality sleep trumps all of this stuff, to be honest, because I don't know about you. If you've ever gotten interrupted sleep in the middle of the night, maybe you have had young kids, or just whatever has caused you to have bad sleep, you're useless to the world the next day. You are not your full self. You're not operating at 100% energy. You're not fully present. And people can feel that, right? They can see it in your eyes. They can feel that. So if you're not getting sleep, you're not recovering your muscles. You're not recovering your nervous system, your hormones. Nothing is operating at full capacity. So sleep is huge, and having a good, wind down routine and sleep hygiene is important. And then stress management. How do you deal with stress? Now, stress comes in all shapes and sizes. Most of it is perceived stress. So what I mean by that is, if you and I both worked at the same job and they had a huge layoff, and I say, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. Now I can find a better job with a better scenario, or start my business, or whatever it is. And you, on the other hand, go curl up in a ball and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. My life is over. I'm never going to be able to come back from this. That is perceived stress. The same exact thing happened. I perceived it one way. You perceived it another way. Now, how do you deal with that, right? What are your tools to dealing with stress management? Do you go for walks? Do you talk to someone? Do you have a therapist? Do you journal? Do you do deep breathing? Do you meditate? Do you take baths, right? There's a lot of things that you can do to start dealing with stress in a way that's, sustainable, and the way that makes you feel good. Again, not everyone likes to journal. I like to write my thoughts down on paper. It gets them out of my head and onto a physical object. I love to talk to people. I'm an open book. If I talk to a friend or a therapist or whoever, I don't really hold anything back, because I don't think it serves me to do that, and it allows me to get it off my chest. So talking is my favorite form of stress management. Now, these, again, are all pretty universal things, and they're going to build the base for more personalization later, which means the types of diets that you start to incorporate, the types of exercise you start to do, and all of those habits and hacks that you see on Instagram and on podcasts, you can start to incorporate after you have a good foundation, right? Like when I talk to people about coaching, if they want to do a health rebuilding program and you are staying up late, going to the casino, drinking like a fish, doing all this stuff, it's like, well, that's got to change first before we adjust your diet and any of these other helpful habits, right? Like they're not going to work if we're not allowing ourselves to heal first. So that's why I say start with the foundation. Then we have to realize that individuality is a real thing, right? Like I said, to a biological level, you are different than anyone else on this planet. That's why I love to test, right? What I do is I run functional labs on clients so that we can get to not the root cause, but get closer to what's causing the stressors on your body, and actually see what type of adjustments would benefit you the most, right? So like I said before, some people work better on a high protein diet. Some people need a little less, right? Some people are sensitive to certain foods. Some people, they're totally fine. Some people have a good wind down routine at night and their stress levels are balanced and okay. Most people are not, right? So we need to figure that out. And then when you're ready, the third thing that you could do is get proper guidance, right? Investing in yourself, in real testing, in mentorship, in coaching. Because guess what? It saves you years of trial and error, it saves you thousands of dollars, and it could increase the amount of time that you're living instead of dying, right? So instead of dying longer and being sick in your later years, you are acting proactively about it and giving yourself that suit of armor, that bill of health that you need to go into your later years and just feel great and just live your life doing what you want to do. So it's not about doing more, it's about doing what's right for your body. And so when you are ready for it and you get that testing, that mentorship, and that coaching, it is really going to help you dial in what works best for you. So my wrap up here is that, number one, don't get frustrated by all the noise out there, because everyone is just trying to say what worked for them, and they're not wrong in doing so, right? All these people posting on Instagram, it is great. But I don't want you to feel frustrated and broken because you're trying something and then you go to the next person and you're trying something else, right? Like on Monday, you're talking to one of your coaches and they're telling you one thing, and then on Friday you're talking to another coach or listening to another post and they're telling you a totally different thing, and you're so lost because you're trying everything but it's not working, right? So you got to stick with a plan. You got to learn to listen to your body, and you need to start with the foundations. So if you have those intact, and you can start to say, ooh, my body feels great when I wake up at this time, and I really love to take a bath at nighttime, that helps me wind down. Or, hey, guess what? I have 3 kids. It's impossible to, meal prep, for the week and be totally ready. It's like we have to learn what our lifestyle is, what works for our best for our body, and go from there. So just know you're not broken. You're just overwhelmed by all the noise. So take a deep breath, feel what works best for you. And if you are investing in coaching, commit to that for the duration of it. Give it your all and be open to learning new things and commit to it until you realize maybe this isn't right for you. And then you can try something else. But when you get that personalized attention, when you know what your body needs, and you do get testing and things like that, it will help you move in the right direction. So that's my hope for you guys, is that what you take from this is that you are an individual. You need to start with the foundations. You need to start with what works for your body and where you're at mentally, and then build from there. And always, if you need any extra help, you can feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. You can email me. You can reach out any way that you can if you have any questions or things that you want me to talk about on this show. And I'd be more than happy to take some time and to talk to you about that, right? So hope you guys have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.